All right, well, let's get started this morning. When I was in fifth grade, a young man, an old boy, however you want to say it. What are you in fifth grade? Are you a young man or an old boy? I don't know. But this young guy walks up to me and introduces himself on the bus, and we became best friends. Hit it right off the bat. We lived right down the road from each other. His name was Andy, and we did everything together. We did absolutely everything. We were best friends, and we were hanging out as much as possible every day if we could. We were trying to spend the night at each other's houses every weekend if we could, and we ate up each other's food, and we rode bikes together. We played basketball together, and he had one of those goals that was adjustable basketball goal. You could lower it down to 6 feet, and we do slam dunks on it, and we jumped on trampolines, and we rode bikes up and down the road everywhere. And one of the things that we did is about half a mile up the road, we had a convenience store that we would walk to. We would just walk up there, we would buy candy, and then come back. We did all kinds of fun stuff like that. We did lip syncing videos. We shot videos of ourselves singing to Bon Jovi. All kinds of fun stuff like that. We had our own kind of made-up language, which drove my older brother absolutely nuts. He hated it when we did that. My parents are like, yep. I mean, it drove him crazy. We encouraged each other with our girlfriends. Like, are you going to hold her hand tonight? Yeah, I'm going to finally do it. I'm going to hold her hand. That was such a big deal. In middle school, I'm going to hold her. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get up the guts. I'm going to hold her hand. Did any of you have best friends like that growing up? Did you have a good friend that you did everything with, that you could share everything with each other? And then I went through times in life where I didn't have friends, and it was really lonely. My first year of college, I just, for whatever reason, for that first 2 semesters, I could not make any good friends, people that we really hit it off with. And I was even depressed. There were many weekends where I just was kind of depressed and lonely. You ever been through something like that? Me and Andrea went through a time where we really wanted some good friends that she and I could hang out with as a married couple, and just could not find friends. We were having people over left and right trying to make friends, and it just wasn't happening. And for a while, and it was hard. It's hard not to have friends. Do you find yourself wishing you had some really good friends? Do you look back on maybe your high school days or your college days, and you remember that time when you had some really good friends back then, and you just felt this void because it hasn't been there lately? I feel your pain. I've definitely been there, done that. Is there anything we can do besides just sitting there feeling sorry for ourselves? Well, here's a question that we need to ask ourselves this morning is, are you a good friend to others? So we're wanting friendship. Are you being a good friend to others? I believe we should be the type of people that are loyal friends. As Christians, we should be those good friends, those good solid friends that people can rely on, that people can count on, that we can be there for each other. And so one of the first places to check if you're lacking friends is, are you being a good friend to others? So today we're going to read about a person who is a very loyal friend. His name is Jonathan, and we read about him in 1 Samuel chapter 20. If you want to go ahead and turn there, we have Bibles under your chairs, or you can use your Bible apps. We really encourage people to follow along while we read. So we're continuing this series of Bible heroes I want to be like. And as I was preparing for this series, we talked about being an encourager from last week, and we talked about Barnabas was a person who was an encourager. Solomon, we talked about wisdom the week before that. I look up to Solomon for his wisdom, and I want to be like him in that regard. I want to be a good friend. And as I was preparing this study, I thought of Jonathan. Jonathan, he was a really good friend to David. And I thought, that's a guy that we should be like. That's someone we should look up to and try to be like him. So to tell the story of David and Jonathan, you actually have to back up to the story of David and Goliath. Anybody heard the story of David and Goliath before? Yeah? Where David takes on this 9-foot tall giant of a man, defeats him, takes him down, And naturally, the king wants to know, who is this David guy who is the only one who had the guts to stand up to this giant? I want to get to know him better. So he invites David over to the palace so that he can get to know him better. And Saul, the king, has a son named Jonathan. And when Jonathan and David meet, they just hit it off instantly. And they actually, the Bible says, they actually made a covenant with each other as friends. Like, I'm going to be your loyal friend. And that reminded me of back in the day when we would become blood brothers. Does anybody remember blood brothers? You would cut part of your hand and they would cut part of their hand. And you would shake hands, and the idea was your blood would mix together. And you were brothers now, right? Blood brothers. Nowadays, they probably look down on that. Like, that's not good. That's like spreading diseases or something. CDC does not approve blood brothers. That's why they don't do it anymore. It's all the CDC's fault. But Jonathan and David do the equivalent of becoming blood brothers, right? They make a covenant. They make a pact. Jonathan actually gives him some of his weapons. And I'd like to think he gave him a bow and went deer hunting, gave him one of his nice bows. He gave him some of his weapons. He gave him some of his robes. And he said, let's be friends. Let's be best friends. So then we kind of fast forward. David, after his victory with Goliath, Saul actually puts him as a general over his armies. He's like, hey, he stood up to Goliath. He won. Let's make him a general. He goes out, wins all these battles. And all of a sudden, on one of the days home from his battles, the women are singing a song. I don't know what the tune was, but I like to imagine it was something like, Saul has slain his thousands, David his tens of thousands, na-na-na-boo-boo, David is better. It was something like that, I don't know. But this song about Saul has slain his thousands, but David is tens of thousands. How do you think that made Saul feel? How do you think? Talk to me. Yeah, he was in Jealousville. He was jealous. He was envious. He was like, man. And he said, well, if the people love him this much, what's next but the kingdom? They're going to give him the kingdom. They're going to take the kingdom away from me. And so at that point, he starts trying to kill David. On 2 different occasions, he throws spears at David, trying to kill him. So David goes on the run. Now, mind you, David is not running away from Saul because he's afraid of him. Remember, he just stood up to this 9-foot-tall giant. He's not afraid of the king. That's not why he goes on the run. He goes on the run because David is an honorable person. And he says, I'm not going to lay a hand on the Lord's anointed. He's the king. God put him in place, and I'm not going to touch him. I'm not going to fight him. And so he goes on the run. Eventually, Jonathan catches up with him and finds him while he was hiding out. And basically the conversation goes something like this. David says to Jonathan, why is your father trying to kill me? And Jonathan goes, no, he's not. He wouldn't be trying to kill you. He doesn't do anything without me knowing. He tells me everything. And David goes, come on. Your dad knows you and I are best friends. Of course he's not going to tell you, but I promise you he is trying to kill me. And he says, okay, I believe you. How can I help? And they decide, David comes up with this idea. There's this new moon festival coming up. And he said, I'm going to not be at the festival. And when your dad, Saul, the king, notices I'm not there, he's going to ask, where am I? You tell him I went back to my hometown to Bethlehem to do sacrifices. And however he reacts will tell us if he's really trying to kill me or not. If he's fine with it, he doesn't say anything, he's not trying to kill me. But if he gets upset, he loses his temper, that'll show you he's trying to kill me. So then they get into this, okay, how will I know? How can we communicate, that he's trying to kill me? And they come up with this deal. 1 Samuel 20, verse 18. 1 Samuel 20, verse 18. Then Jonathan said to David, tomorrow is the new moon feast. You will be missed because your seat will be empty. The day after tomorrow, toward evening, go to the place where you hid when this trouble began and wait by the stone Ezel. I will shoot 3 arrows to the side of it as though I were shooting at a target. Then I will send a boy and say, go find the arrows. If I say to him, look, the arrows are on this side of you, bring them here, then come. Because as surely as the Lord lives, you are safe. There is no danger. But if I say to the boy, look, the arrows are beyond you, then you must go, because the Lord has sent you away. And about the matter you and I discussed, remember, the Lord is witness between you and me forever." So David hid in the field, and when the new moon feast came, the king sat down to eat. He sat in his customary place by the wall, opposite Jonathan, and Abner sat next to Saul. But David's place was empty. Saul said nothing that day, for he thought something must have happened to David to make him ceremonially unclean. Surely he is unclean. But the next day, the second day of the month, David's place was empty again. Then Saul said to his son Jonathan, "Why hasn't the son of Jesse come to the meal either yesterday or today?" Jonathan answered, "David earnestly asked me for permission to go to Bethlehem. He said, 'Let me go, because our family is observing a sacrifice in the town, and my brother has ordered me to be there. If I have found favor in your eyes, let me get away to see my brothers. That is why he has not come to the king's table.'" Saul's anger flared up at Jonathan, and he said to him, "You son of a perverse and rebellious woman, don't I know that you have sided with the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of the mother who bore you? As long as the son of Jesse lives on this earth, neither you nor your kingdom will be established. Now send someone to bring him to me, for he must die." "Why should he be put to death? What has he done?" Jonathan asked his father. But Saul hurled his spear at him to kill him. Then Jonathan knew that his father intended to kill David. Jonathan got up from the table in fierce anger, and on that second day of the feast he did not eat, because he was grieved at his father's shameful treatment of David. So needless to say, Jonathan shot the arrows, and he told the boy, "Go beyond. You're in danger," right? He's telling him, "You're in danger." Verse 41, after the boy had gone, David got up from the south side of the stone and bowed down before Jonathan 3 times with his face to the ground. Then they kissed each other and wept together, but David wept the most. Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord, saying, 'The Lord is witness between you and me, and between your descendants and my descendants forever.'" And David left, and Jonathan went back to the town. So we learn a lot about what it means to be a truly loyal friend from this story. Let's look at some of those things. How can we be a loyal friend? Well, first of all, a loyal friend, if you're taking notes, a loyal friend will choose friendship over temporary benefits. A loyal friend will choose friendship over temporary benefits. Look what Jonathan's loyalty to David caused him to lose. Verse 31, as long as the son of Jesse lives on this earth, neither you nor your kingdom will be established. In other words, he lost the throne. He lost his throne. You know, his father gave him an ultimatum. If you're going to be loyal to David, you're not going to be king after me. You're not going to step up into your place as king. And so he had a choice. Choice one, be loyal to the king, even though he was in the wrong, and you still get to be king after he's gone. Or choice 2, be loyal to David, but you lose the throne. What would most people pick, do you think? I think a lot of people would, man, I don't want to lose the kingship. I get to be king. I'm not going to give that up. But Jonathan was a loyal friend. He cared more about his friendship than the throne and that honor of being king. I've listened to a Christian comedian named Ken Kington over the years, and he talks about how his wife, Heather, has this glitch that he calls Heatherisms. She has this problem where she mixes up phrases that don't go together. She takes 2 different phrases and mixes them together. And he was like, I wonder where she gets this. And one day they were playing cards at her parents' house, and her dad says, hey, whatever turns your boat. And he was like, would that be a rudder? And it's funny because he said these Heatherisms usually come up in the middle of an argument, and so they're balancing their checkbook. And she says this statement. She says, look, you can't milk a dead horse. And he's like, How can you argue with that? It's true. You can't. Said she caught him in something one time and she said, listen, mister, you are treading in hot water. And he says, listen, honey, I can be treading on thin ice or I can be in hot water. But if I'm treading in hot water, that's a jacuzzi. I don't mind being there. And then related to a friend, she says, I am a great friend. I am a great friend. I am loyal as a heart attack. He goes, I don't think I want to be your friend then. We do want to be good friends. I don't know if we want to be loyal as a heart attack. But in our day and age, let's think about how we could apply this to our lives today. Right? So in our day and age, everything's all about networking. Especially if you're in the business world, right? It's all about who you know. It's not even so much about the skills that you have and if you're qualified. If you don't know the right person, right, then you're not getting the job. It's all about who you know. And so what you could get into is a situation where you don't really care about the people you're getting to know. They're all just stepping stones to where you really want to get. And you start using people, right? And even in school, you could start using friends. Like you don't really care anything about Chris, but if Chris will help you get to Stephanie, then I'll pretend to be friends with Chris so that I can get to Stephanie, right? That's called using people. And we shouldn't be that way as Christians. We shouldn't just use people as if they're just a means to an end, right? I'm going to tell you something. This may shock you. I don't know. Some people even use church as a way to get to network, and they don't really care about the church or the people. It's just, it's a big church and it has all the right kinds of people in it. And so I'm going to go to that church so I can start these business relationships, whatever. And they'll use even church. We don't want to be those kinds of people. We want to be real friends to people and not just use people. Another thing about loyal friends, loyalty, is a loyal friend sticks up for you no matter what the cost. A loyal friend, if you're taking notes, sticks up for you no matter what the cost. I talked about how Jonathan lost the throne because of his loyalty to David, but there was another thing he almost lost because of his friendship. He almost lost his life. Did you catch that part where his own father tried to throw a spear at him and kill him? He almost died over his friendship with David, but that's how loyal he was. He was willing to even die. Remember what Jesus said about that? He said, greater love has no man than this, that he laid down his life for his friends. That's the greatest kind of love we can show someone else, is if we're even willing to die for them. That's some love. He must have really loved his friend David. When I was in 5th grade, there were these two bullies. One was named Cameron Cruz, and the other was named Brad Hull. And the fact that I could tell you I remember their names tells you that they still haunt me to this day in my nightmares. No, not really. But Brad Hull, one day Brad was picking on me. No reason why. I mean, I guarantee you I hadn't done anything to provoke him. I was a nice kid. I just kept to myself. But here is the school bully, and he's picking on me. And at one point, somehow, he got me into a headlock. And I remember my friend Andy, I told you about at the beginning, my best friend Andy, he saw me in trouble. And all of a sudden, he charged like a bull, and he knocked over Brad, got him off of me, and next thing I know, Andy's on top of Brad, and he got him off of me. And I'm not promoting fighting, but I will say, I will always remember that day when my friend stood up for me. He really cared about me. He was willing to do whatever, to stick up for his friend. We had a dog, an old English bulldog named Angel, and she had the face only a mother could love, I tell people. Bulldogs don't have the prettiest face, but I will tell you what, they are a loyal dog, and they will protect your family to the death if they have to. And Angel was always good about that. If she was riding in the car, she saw a stranger coming up to the car, she started barking. If someone walked into the house and she didn't know him, she ran up to the door, barked, and let them know she's going to rip your head off, which is maybe not the best thing when you're bringing over guests, but we had a couple of close incidents. But I loved her for it. And I tell you, we didn't need an alarm system as long as we had Angel. We had Angel. We didn't have to worry about if someone broke in, oh, they're in trouble. That's on them. And, I think that's why dogs are better than cats. Oh, did I say that out loud? Did I say that out loud? I just love dogs because a dog will protect their owner. They will charge. When's the last time you saw a cat? I love cats too, but when's the last time you saw a cat, charge someone that was going to harm? They don't do that. That's why dogs are man's best friend. Oh, okay. I'm gonna finish on that as you throw stones at me, cat lovers. No. But loyal friends will stick up for their friends no matter what the cost. And sometimes sticking up for friends isn't easy. There's going to be choices. There's going to be people who are going to tell you, if you stay in with us, the in crowd and us, we'll help you be the next student body president. We'll help you get elected as the next mayor. We'll help you get, that promotion at work or whatever, right? But, if you're going to be friends with that loser, you can forget all about that. What are you going to do? What are you going to do if faced with that choice? I don't know how it was for you in school. Maybe you only had normal looking, normal acting friends, but I had some friends that were kind of weird, and they tended to get made fun of. There were some times where my friends were getting made fun of. So here's the question: when you see a friend getting made fun of, do you just stand by and say nothing and not get involved, or do you stick up for them? Say, hey, that's my friend. Leave them alone. A loyal friend will stick up for them. And then third, a loyal friend will stick with you during good times and bad. During good times and bad. In fact, that's how you can tell if they're a true friend. Are you a real friend? Are you a loyal friend to others? Or are you a fair weather friend? Fair weather friends are only friends with you as long as things are going well, right? Like, it's really hard to be a Steelers fan right now. I want to be a fair weather fan. And, I even have this guy up at Panera encouraging me to jump ship. Don't you think it's time to jump ship on your Steelers? They stink. I'm like, yeah, I know they stink. But I'm a loyal fan. I'm not giving up on them yet.
Bless your heart.
I know. Bless my heart, right? It's terrible. It's been a rough year. Rough few years last year. Anyway, some of you remember MC Hammer. Anybody remember MC Hammer? Can't touch this. So he sang Can't Touch This. He also had another song. I don't know if you remember this one. You've Got to Pray. Anybody remember that song? You've got to pray just to make it today. He was a Christian. He was a Christian, a strong Christian. And one of the things he did when he rose to stardom is he helped out a lot of down and outer people by giving them jobs. He would give them a job as a stagehand, as a lighting or whatever, and haul our stuff, and I'll pay you. He helped out a lot of people during his success. The sad thing, I was watching a documentary on this. The sad thing is when he lost his success and he didn't have the money coming in anymore, a lot of those so-called friends gone, scattered. It's sad, right? He is trying to help them, do a nice thing for them, and they're poof, gone when the money dried up. As Christians, we should be people's friends even when things aren't going well for them. In fact, we should be their friends especially when things aren't going well. Would you agree? 1 Samuel 23:15, while David was at Horesh in the desert of Ziph, he learned that Saul had come out to take his life. And Saul's son Jonathan went to David at Horesh and helped him find strength in God. He encouraged him. Don't be afraid, he said. My father Saul will not lay a hand on you. You will be king over Israel, and I will be second to you. Even my father Saul knows this. The two of them made a covenant before the Lord. Then Jonathan went home, but David remained at Horesh. He came and found him when times were tough, and he gave him a boost, gave him some encouragement. So now that I've given my own definition of loyalty, I'd like to make a few points. First of all, be a loyal friend. Be a loyal friend. Choose your friendships over temporary things. Stick up for your friends, even if it's not the popular thing to do. Stick with your friends in time of need. Number 2, look for loyal friends. Look for loyal friends. I think everybody needs at least one good friend. And I think that person needs to be someone besides your spouse if you're married. Now, don't get me wrong. I think your spouse, it's great if your spouse is absolutely your best friend. That's great. But I really believe a healthy person has another friend outside of that spouse. We all need good friends to help us get through this life. So how do you find a loyal friend? We use the same principles. Look for someone who will choose you over the benefits they could receive. Look for someone who will stick up for you. Look for someone who you think will stick with you through good times and bad. And then one last quick point is some people will complain about not having any friends, but then they don't do anything to try to make friends. They just kind of sit back and they're like, woe is me, I don't have any friends, blah, blah, blah. Well, listen, you can't expect to have good friends if you don't make an effort to get friends, right? Don't just sit back and play the victim mentality and, oh, I just can't help it, and nobody likes me. Go out there and do something. I told you that me and Andrea went through a time in our marriage where we really desired some good friends. And we were having people over to our house left and right. Just tons of people having them over, and just nothing seemed to stick. It was really frustrating. It was a little depressing, discouraging. It's like, man, why? And one thing that was discouraging is we're having them over to our house, but a lot of people weren't having us back over to their house. And I was raised that if someone has you over for dinner, you're supposed to, pay it back and have them over for dinner. And they weren't doing that. And I was just like, what is wrong? What is going on? And we're praying, the whole time. And I want to say this went on for like a good 2 or 3 years. We're praying for friends. We're trying to hang out with people. And we're just not finding anybody. Finally, we met this pastor in the next town over at a get-together. And we've been best friends ever since. And it took a while. But it wasn't for lack of effort on our part. Does that make sense? We weren't just sitting back, playing the victim, saying, oh, woe is us. We were trying and we were praying. We were making effort. So if you want friends, you're trying to find these loyal friends, make the effort and pray and ask God to help you. So I've got some next steps for you to do this week. Some things, if you they're on the back of your program. If you want to do one of these, you just check them off and make it a goal to do these things this week. Reach out to a friend this week and offer to pray for them. I'd be encouraged if somebody called me up and offered to pray with me. Send Christmas cards to friends, thinking especially of the ones you haven't talked to in a while. Think of those people that you never know. That might really encourage somebody. Like, man, I haven't heard from you in a while, and I'm actually going through a hard time, and that really encouraged me. Invite someone out for coffee to eat or over to the house. And then pray 5 days a week for God to provide a good friend. Pray and ask God. If you want to do one of those, just check that off and do those this week. You can do more than one. You can do all of them if you want. But let's really try to be a good friend to somebody this week. So I mentioned earlier that Jesus said that greater love has no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends. And guess what? Jesus said that, and then Jesus did that. That's right. Jesus said that's the greatest kind of love that you can possibly show someone, is to give up your life for them. And Jesus did that. He was that great friend for all of us. He died on the cross, even though he never sinned. He wasn't the one who sinned and disobeyed God. We're the ones who sinned. We deserved that punishment. We deserved death. But Jesus loved his Father enough to do his Father's will, and he loved you and I enough that he said, I don't want these people dying and being lost and going to hell. I want them to have a relationship with me and to be made right with God and be made right with me and have eternal life. And so he offers that to every person in this room this morning. And so I don't know where everyone stands with God. But if you're not right with God, if you're questioning in your head, I don't know if I'm right with God. I want to be right with God. I want my sins to be forgiven. Come see me. I'm going to be in the back of the room as we sing one last song. And we invite you to come. Come see me, and just you and I will talk, and we'll find out where you are in the journey, and find out what your next step is. And that might be believing in Jesus for the first time. That might be you need to turn from your sins and live for God. That might be your next step is baptism. You need to be baptized. Or maybe you need a Bible study on some topic that you've been struggling with. We love doing Bible studies with people. That's one of the things, me and Andrea, my parents are glad to do Bible studies with people. If you're confused about some topic and you want to do a Bible study, we love doing that kind of stuff. Come let us know, and we'll get something set up. If you need prayer, you just need to pray. You're just going through a tough time. You need somebody to pray with you. Come see me. We'll pray confidentially. Only you and I will know. Okay? Let's